Today we're going to talk about ways to save for college. So what we're going to do is explain what a savings instrument is, and that is a tool. So a savings instrument is a tool that enables people to save their money for future uses. And so people often save their money to make small purchases or large purchases in the future. For example, maybe you need a new dishwasher, a new television set, or even bigger like a house or a car. Or what we want to focus on is your college education. So, but also maybe you want to save for emergencies or just have a source of income later on, well after college, when you retire. And so those are all kind of the reasons why we save for college. And we're going to go through some vocabulary that relates to all of this. So in this lesson, what I want to do is introduce you to the different types of savings instruments and the risks that investors take when they hold on to these different instruments that we're going to talk about. So in terms of vocabulary, let's talk about risk. Risk refers to the possibility of a loss. In most banks, the possibility of a loss is reduced or eliminated by insurance that guarantees the safety of the depositor's money in different savings instruments. So if you invest your money at a bank, there's insurance provided by the FDIC to protect you in case there's some sort of a loss. So when that insurance applies, you can't lose your deposit even if that bank goes out of business. The FDIC, and that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, insures deposits up to $250,000 at any bank that displays that logo. And then for credit unions, there's another similar organization called NCUA. Now, there are many ways to save, and so that's why we have this variety of types of savings instruments, and that can actually make choosing which one's best for you a little bit confusing. In fact, there really is no one best method. Individuals have different incomes, they have different savings goals, and they have different timelines or horizons for meeting their goals. So therefore, you really need to be familiar with the different types of plans and choose one or more that's going to fit your needs. So our next vocabulary word is portfolio. A portfolio is a person's financial security package, so to speak, or their collection of securities that they own. So that package or portfolio should include a variety of savings and investment instruments. And so in order to do that, or when you do that, then you're diversified. So this lesson is going to focus on the traditional savings instruments. So keep in mind that there are many more instruments than what we're going to cover here today. We can, in future lessons, we can talk about other instruments like stocks and bonds and mutual funds, but today we're just going to talk about the savings end. So when I talk about savings versus stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, I'm really talking about saving versus investing. Saving is a little bit more short term, investing is a little bit more long term. So when we're talking about college and you're already getting pretty close, just a year or two away from college, then you're more talking about a shorter horizon that's going to be more tailored to these savings instruments as opposed to investing. Savings instruments provide funds for emergencies and making purchases in the not too distant future. So what we want to do with savings instruments is minimize the risk of loss, and therefore these accounts need to be liquid, meaning you can get to your money pretty easily, and they're insured. So that gives you less risk. So remember, we talked about the FDIC and the NCUA who help us protect ourselves against that risk of loss. So a liquid account is one where you can withdraw money easily. For example, if it's in a savings account, you may even have a debit card that you can use to access your money. Investments, though, remember, are used for long-term goals and to increase net worth. And so when you're investing, so we're talking about saving versus investing. When you're investing, you could lose part or all of your original investment because you don't have that insurance that protects us from risk. But you also have an opportunity for a greater return. So there's this relationship between risk and return. The more risk you take on, the greater return potential you have. So the risk of an investment is related to its expected return. So if you want those high returns, you've got to be willing to accept higher risk. Now, let's go on and talk about these different, let me move my screen up a little bit. Let's talk about these different savings or investment methods. In fact, you might want to start thinking maybe in your head or jotting down a list of the ones that you've heard of. So I'm going to give you just a moment to do that. Okay, so hopefully you were thinking about different savings and investing instruments that you've heard of before. You don't necessarily need to know exactly what each one of them is, but I just wanted you to start thinking about what you may have heard of. So for savings, remember we said that these are short term. So maybe you've heard of a savings account, hopefully. Or you've heard of a certificate of deposit. Sometimes we call that a CD. So this is a CD. Or a money market account. So those are all different savings instruments. They tend to be short-term, low risk, kind of safer investment or safer instruments. Now on the investing side, we have things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Those are the more common ones. But there are also things like options and futures, even gold or silver. But those all tend to be instruments that we use to invest. So these are more long-term and these are more short-term. So that'll get us started with thinking about ways to save. So we're talking about saving versus investing, and our focus today is really on the saving side. So let's take a break here and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about different ways to save.